Hello folks, welcome to the channel. Hey, I am driving J-Rod, one of our two drivers is off this week. Normally covers this dedicated run, so he's actually off for these 2 weeks, so I'm probably going to be covering out here for the next 2 weeks. So I think I will make a video that'll mostly be me talking, but kind of telling you guys who I am, where I'm from, kind of my background. Did I really grow up Amish? Or did I just make a bunch of dumb dad jokes about it? So, a little bit of my background. Yes, I really did grow up Amish in the, southeastern-ish Ohio, in a really small community of 20-25 families. Up until I was age 16, my family basically split, the Amish excommunicating my mom, so I kind of chose to go with her side instead of staying Amish. But we were not those cool Amish that you see that have like the really nice white painted barns, the really fancy. No, we were like I believe the second most conservative in the United States. If you know what Troopers are, we were very close to them, but we were not Troopers. But we were like the poor, trashy Amish in a really poor rural part of Ohio where there's not many jobs and even less when you're Amish, less opportunity. Yes, the bishop really is my uncle. My dad's sister is married to who was elected the bishop in the community I grew up in. My dad had a small dairy farm growing up and also a sawmill. The sawmill was where most of our money came from. The dairy was kind of because the Amish saw it as being, I think maybe a sign of being holy or more righteous, the conservative Amish do, if you farm. And so they kind of mandated that everybody had some kind of dairy cows. So we had, I believe at the peak, we had like 13, normally milking like 8 or 9 at a time. Just enough to keep them satisfied, because my dad hated farming. He never liked the day of it, I don't think. Most of our income was through us boys working at the sawmill, my brothers and I. We really did raise a garden, grew most of everything we ate, other than obviously your spices and seasonings and stuff, and your flours. But when it comes to vegetables and meats, we raised, I would say, 95% of what we ate. So that part was cool. I still like that part. Left the Amish at age 16 when they excommunicated my mom for having the, quote, strange belief, which simply was believing that you can know, according to the Bible, whether you're going to heaven or not. The Amish believe that if you say you're going to heaven, then you're judging, which means you're going to hell. I never really thought about that before, but the irony that they say you can judge saying you're going to hell, but cannot judge saying you're going to heaven, that's kind of funny. But I still have, let's see, 2 sisters that are Amish and 2 brothers, and my dad is still Amish. One of my Amish brothers is a preacher, which I find hilarious now. I don't doubt he's a very good speaker. I've never heard him preach, but I don't doubt that he's very good at holding people's attention and stuff. But just the fact that me out here as a heathen truck driver that drops a few F-bombs now and again, that my Amish brother would be a preacher, is hilarious. I enjoy that fact. My first job at age 16 after leaving the Amish was riding a bicycle with my older brother up and down our local township roads. They paid us to pick up trash alongside the road and out of dump sites. A lot of tires. Growing up in hillbilly country, hillbillies and rednecks, instead of paying a garbage disposal service, they'll find some dirt road where someone else dumped trash and they'll just dump trash on top. And so there was literally thousands of tires in our township that we would pull out of the ditches, getting paid, I believe, $7.15 an hour to do that. And we thought we were getting rich. That's how we saved up the money to buy the first pickup truck, which was, I have to ask my brother again, but I think it was a 1987 Ford pickup flatbed with a 3-speed on the column. Yes, that is correct. It was a 3-speed on the column. I have never seen another one since then. We bought it for, I think, $300 with some of that ditch cleaning out money. Got some contracts mowing cemeteries from the same township. And that's kind of how my public working career started. Before that, while I was still Amish, I guess I worked in the public some. There was a local guy that had, I don't even know, maybe 100 head of beef cows. that were wild and crazy as a deer, but the highlight, I think every spring and fall we would take our horses over, or we'd go over on foot and help him round up the cattle, wean all his calves off, castrate, do all his work in his cattle. That's probably where my love for cows started. Yeah, I would guess that's where my love for cattle, for beef cattle started. I really enjoyed the cowboy life. I always fancied it, reading about it in books and stuff when I was a kid. And so that was my first taste of realizing that it can still be reality even in today's modern world. Did carpentry work, odd jobs, whatever paid money up till I turned 18, moved to Indiana, got my CDL, found a great local guy that had a couple of dump trucks that knew my brothers and was nice enough to train me and give me my first CDL job. Drove for, I don't even know, 3 or 4 years, quit that, went to work with my older brother for a little bit on houses, got the wild idea, I wanted to be in law enforcement, and applied at the Tennessee Department of Corrections, and they freaking hired me. So I got to spend, 14 months I think I lasted down there working with death row inmates. Luckily me that I got freaking the chances of them hiring me to begin with, and then me getting to work the death row unit was amazing, and at the same time extremely depressing, because it's really weird to work around people that are kept in cages. Like it's a really weird reverse negativity, and like it's you have to be there and experience it. It's an insane, it's a wild thing I never understood, even though I did it for 14 months. It was just crazy. But during that time period, I realized that law enforcement is way too intense for me. I don't want to spend my whole life being on guard and counting people and watching people, and like it's an extremely intense job. So that went out the window. I quit there, and in being there doing that, I was living in the city of Nashville. So coming from a poor hillbilly redneck Amish kid in extreme rural Ohio to there down to living by myself, mostly by myself. I had a roommate that was in and out some, but mostly living by myself in Nashville in a pretty rough part of town. I freaking hated it. I was the most lonely, depressed person on earth. I freaking hated every last second of it. And to this day, when I see cities, big buildings, big crowds of city stuff, I get lonely deep down inside, because I hated it then, and now when I see it, it just looks like a huge cluster of the greatest place to get lost in and just die of loneliness. After quitting my job at the prison, I went back to Indiana for a little bit, kind of lummed around and couldn't really seem to fit in anything. Went down to Ohio where I grew up, lumped around there for a couple of years, didn't really seem to fit in anything. And then in 2011, a good friend of mine got me a job working in the oil fields in western PA. So I went out there, kind of where we're in the same area where we're now back and forth between Ohio and there still are. When I went out there, I got a job with a local water trucking company hauling water off of the gas wells. So we worked a ton of hours, and even though I wasn't making much per hour, I made really good money there for a couple of years. There is where I met this older couple by simply walking up and knocking on their door to see if I could put cattle in their pasture field, because I needed something other than the apartment I was staying in and the work I was doing to help keep my sanity. So knocked on their door. Long story short, 6 months later, I was buying cattle and putting them on the farm that are still now what we call the farm. That's where we still keep the cows to this day. They have been an absolutely amazing couple to us. They've been, you can't find better people. They took us in like we were family. I think they saw some poor lonely little puppy walking down the street, and they picked me up and took me home and fed me and groomed me, and here I am. That's what got us started in cattle out here. I went to sale barns, and there's a local sale barn there. I went to the local sale barn, and every time I had $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 in my pocket, I would go there and buy as many cows as I had money for, whatever I thought looked like a good deal coming through. Some of them I should have left there, and they should have went to slaughter. Some of them, I took them home and they died within a few weeks because they were sick, but other ones I did really well with, so I'm not sure I recommend it. Yeah, I probably would recommend it again because it was a easy, cheap way to put the herd together one piece at a time. And by cheap, I mean as cheap as you can get in the cattle industry. Anytime you're doing farming stuff, it's not a good investment, but I needed it, and I still need it to help keep my sanity. It's hard work, and it's stress, but it's different, and it's something that I still enjoy at the same time. That's how I got started in the cattle, in our own herd. Retract that a little bit. Before that, my older brother and my mom and I went together and bought some older cows off of a local farmer in Ohio, and we had, I don't even know, maybe 10 or 15 beef cows that we all three owned together there on the home farm. So that's how I really started working in PA and got that land out there for a really cheap rent. That is when I started buying my own cattle that were all mine personally. So retract that first part a little bit. That's not exactly where I started the thing, but it's where I started my own thing, if that makes sense. Met my now wife in 2013 in online dating. Yes, that is correct. I went from being Amish to online dating. So I went from writing snail mail to girls to writing emails to girls. I guess more like chats to girls. But anyhow, her and I met in 2013, got engaged in 2014, got married in 2015. Our relationship was a long distance relationship. She moved back east. She's probably seen glimpses of her here and there in my videos, but she doesn't like, she's a very introverted person and doesn't like being on camera. She doesn't like the public eye. And so I try to respect that and leave her off camera as much as I can. But yeah, her and I met, got married 2015, now have 2 kids, currently ages 6 and 4 at the recording of this. Started our own trucking thing, starting out doing hot shot with just an old Dodge pickup and a gooseneck trailer ahead. We soon learned that the overhead expenses was almost as bad as it is in a semi, just in the hot shot. So a buddy of mine had an old Freightliner sitting that he sold us for a really, really good price. Bought that truck, put it on the road. I believe it was about that point where I quit my full-time job at the water trucking company. Worked for myself for a little bit, off and on. Had another job working at a concrete plant for about a year. Absolutely freaking hated it there. Their hearts, I'm sure they all mean well, but I freaking hated my job there. After about a year, a little over a year, I quit there and came back to work for ourselves full-time. We now have 4 trucks, 3 of us on the road. The 4th one is just sitting. A T600, you've probably seen glimpses of in the video if you've watched the videos. It needs a lot of work done to it, or it needs sold. I don't know which one it needs. 2 drivers and myself. The wife does all of our paperwork, all of the invoicing, the payroll, and all that fun jazz. On the farm side, we have, I don't know, I think there's 20 or 21 bred cows now. We do not put up our own hay no more. We used to, and one day I will again, but it just, when we started the business, it just simply, time was not, you couldn't justify the time it took to do that versus, had to choose between growing the business or putting up hay, and the business paid more money, so the putting up hay thing kind of went by the side. We now have enough chickens to supply us and some friends with eggs. Every fall we finish out pigs for family and for us. Every year it gets a little bit bigger. I think this year we're finishing out 6 or 7 of them. I do shoot all of these videos on my iPhone. I don't even know what iPhone I have. I do all the editing on the iPhone. So if the footage, the editing, the sound is rough, I apologize. It's free. It's what I have. It's not free. I paid a lot of money for this down my iPhone. But it's what I have. It's all we have to work with. I got the load dropped off, reloaded, and facing back east out of Topeka, Kansas, rolling back toward western Pennsylvania where I unload this load. That's kind of the broader stroke, short version, gist of who I am, who we are, what we do. Going forward, there will be a lot of videos of just probably mostly trucking, kids doing stuff with me on the farm, because that's about what our life is right now. Trucking, farming, kids. We're going to get some pigs here in another, hopefully within the next month, that we can finish out to have ready to butcher here this winter. So look forward to seeing those on the channel and to keep posting hopefully 1 video per week for now. Yeah, that's the gist of it. Leave a comment If you have any questions, want any more details, want my social security number, whatever you want, if you just want to reach out, that's the best place. I'll have a email I'll add to the channel here soon once I figure out what the email is again. But yeah, if you hate this kind of stuff and hate my horrible editing and my nervousness on camera, watch along so you have something more to hate. If you like it, I appreciate you liking it. I appreciate you following along and watching it, whether it's out of hate or out of love. But all right, peace out. See you on the next one.